All right, welcome everyone to the 2012 World Championship Tournament Contenders Bracket Draw. I'm Paul Cook. I'm joined today by Tim Dean, who once again will be joining us as the tournament director for this year's event. Tim, good to have you as always.
I'm super excited about this. I know everybody watching is very curious and anxious about this draw because it definitely makes a difference. And I know it's very popular, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next week. I'm even more looking forward to the cooler weather.
Yeah, no, it should be. Let's cross our fingers. If we miss any blowback from this hurricane, it should be a nice, cool but not cold temperatures. So, knock on wood, we'll get there and we'll have the similar temperatures to last year. But yeah, no, this is always a great event. We look forward to the draw in some ways as much as the tournament itself, Tim, because like you said, it sets the tone for the tournament. The tournament format is done in such a way where these contenders bracket games don't kill you. You know, you just have to win one of three games and you still have a path forward and a very reasonable path forward. But it does set the stage and it does lead to a lot of strategies. I know, the teams and everyone, really looks forward to seeing who's in their bracket, who they're playing first, and get to work on how they're going to go about things. Before we get going here, I just want to touch on a few things real quick. Just a few housekeeping items. So first, you see now up on the screen, I just want to shout out some of our collaborators for this event. It's like they say, it takes a village. It's certainly true for this tournament. Starting with New York Revolution and Wellspan Park, they've been very, very gracious hosts for us for many years, and we're excited to work with them once again. We're very excited about the scoring system that we're implementing this year. With the help of Grand Slam Systems, Jack Hoving, they've got a great product, and we're really looking forward to everyone getting to see that. If you're a captain or a participant, we're having a meeting tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern to go over the scoring app. We strongly recommend that everyone join that meeting. The app's very intuitive. You'll be able to use it fine, but this will just give you full confidence going into it of knowing all the bells and whistles. Jack can answer all of your questions. So we highly, highly recommend that you have at least one member of your team there for that meeting, and your captain should have the link for that if you're interested in joining. Just want to shout out Five Guys Apparel, DNAP. I think we took a survey. He probably supplies 30 of the teams at least out of the 40 teams uniforms for this event, and that's pretty true. I think probably across different wiffle tournaments. So great friend of the game, Moonshot Bats, who will be taking over the Home Run Derby this year. They'll be giving away 3 bats, one to the winner of the Home Run Derby, one to the highest exit velocity during the Home Run Derby, which is a cool little feature. You'll be able to see your exit velocity down on the field there. And then the third to a random draw out of the Home Run Derby participants. So, definitely check out their bats. They got new 2025 model bats, really cool. And then last, just MAW and Golden Stick, for running stuff all during the year and, being big supporters of the game. All right. And then last little thing here before we get started, I just want to first, as always, we'll have gift bags for for all the teams, both participating in the WCT and the MLW U17. Just want to show some of the stuff that's going to be in the bags this year. So there's some cool items. First, just speaking of MAW, we've got these phone chargers. Thinking of the Grand Slam systems in the scoring app, you're going to have to be using your phone. So we're one of the items is this MAW phone charger. Please bring a portable charger as well, because this is more of a secondary charger to, after the tournament to set up at your office or whatever. But kind of a cool item to take with you. We're going to have poker chips, like once again in the bag. You probably can't see these very well, but these are our quote unquote common chips this year. It has the MLW U17 Invitational on one side, and then on the other side, it's got the 2025 logo. Your passes, as always, with these custom with lanterns. Everyone will get those, the player passes. And then this, all that will be in this nifty, along with some stickers. All that will be in this, UWIF since 2020 drawstring bag. And then one last thing, and then I promise we'll get started here. Just want to go over merchandise. We'll have the merchandise stand open all night on Friday, 2 different times on Saturday for, at least 4 hours a piece, and to be decided on Sunday, depending on how much is left over. We've got these event T-shirts, which I'm modeling here. I promise will look better on you than me. We've got these United Wiffle logo hats. These are Richardson 112 snapbacks, good quality hats. We also have, continuing on the poker chip theme, we'll have 6 different poker chips that aren't in the bags. I'll show a couple here. We got this Juggernauts one for winning last year's tournament. Same thing with the Flamingos for winning last year's U17. And the way those will be sold is in packs of 5. They're random packs of 5. You'll get 2 commons per bag and then 3 of the unique chips, and those will be on sale for $10. So please check out the merchandise stand over the weekend. We think we've got a lot of different things that hopefully people will be interested in. All right, so now I'll shut up and let's bring in our 2 analysts for the main part of the program. Dylan Harshaw, I'll introduce first. Dylan is longtime commissioner of Ridley Park Wiffle Ball, captain of the Ridley Park Long Balls. He'll be coaching the 2025 MAW champions, Ridley Park Long Balls, and he'll be coaching Ridley Park this weekend at the WCT. So great to have you, Dylan.
Yep, excited to be here. This is one of the more fun tournaments, I think, as manager only, because like you said, after this bracket, or even with this contender bracket, it brings in like the most strategy I think you see at just about any other tournament, because a lot of these with Maul, it's just throw your best guys and try and get the wins. But this one's for sure exciting. So happy to be here.
Yep, we're happy to have you. And then our second analyst will be Doug Meyer. We're going for coaches theme this year, if you haven't picked up on that yet. Doug out of St. Louis, heavily involved in Mo Whiff. And I'm sorry, Doug, I get all the Mo Whiff teams. There's 4 Mo Whiff teams competing in in the WCT this year, so they get all confused in my head. You'll be coaching which one?
Lit City.
Lit City. So Doug will be the coach of Lit City. I'm happy to have you, Doug.
Appreciate it.
And get your thoughts on a lot of the Midwest talent that Dylan, Tim, and I may be a little more or less familiar with.
Sounds good, and glad to be here. Always an exciting time.
Yep, agreed. All right, so just real quick before we get started here, hopefully you can see up on the screen now, this is how we'll do the draw. Teams 1 and 2 will play game 1 in Group A. Teams 3 and 4 will play game 2 in Group A. So the first 4 teams will be in Group A in the top half of the bracket. Then we'll go over, and 5 and 6 will be the first game in Group B, and you can see how that's going to flow from there. And then we'll stop every little bit here just to get our analyst opinions on the matchups we are seeing. Tim will be drawing as usual. So when we'll turn over to his screen in a second, and you'll see the wheel. And then we'll pop this back up with the teams filled in every so often just to get our analyst thoughts. All right, Tim, I'm going to stop sharing whenever you're ready. All right, so Tim, let's kick us off. All right, so Wiffleholics are team number 1 out of New England. And they will be taking on the Abominable Wiffleball men out of Pennsylvania, out of the BWBL League. All right, so the second game, the first team in the second game of Group A will be the Mo Whiff Miracle. And their first opponent will be the New School Risers, who won the regular season championship in MAW this year. So just pause just for a second, Tim. So we have Wiffleholics versus Abominable Wiffle. That's a hard name to say. Abominable Wiffle Men and the Mo Whiff Miracle against the New School Risers. So good cross section of the country there. In the first thing, we got New England, Pennsylvania, all over Northeast, and then the St. Louis area. All right, so now we'll be drawing the first 2 games in Group B. Whenever you're ready, Tim. All right, so we have the Skull Crushers, back-to-back winners of the NWA tournament. And they'll be taking on the Flamingos, winners of the 2024 MLW U17 National Invitational. They're our first sort of full U17 team to graduate. So excited to see what they do. We have New York meets. A staple of Sunday in this tournament. And Kobe University Wiffle Ball Club, also known as Team Japan, our international competitor this year. Let's pause here real quick. Tim, if you want to unshare your screen. So like I was saying, Kobe's our international participant this year. They'll be our third team from Japan to compete, our first from Kobe, our first university team, which is kind of cool. They have a university club there. Maybe the Ridley Park of the Far East, Dylan. So that's it. Let's start here with this. This Group B is very interesting to me so far. So when you look forward to Game 2 matchups, but Dylan, I want to start with you. You've got a lot of familiarity with the Skull Crushers. They've won back-to-back NWA tournaments. Your team has been eliminated. The main Ridley Park team has been eliminated by them twice in the WCT, I think in 22 and 23. What's their key to get over the hump? They've had some trouble getting to Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, they're such a good team. It's proven by, like you said, they win NWLA or they're contending for the cup every single year. So they're just such a good team. They have more pitching than probably anybody in this tournament, and their hitting is also there. But I do think that's what they're going to need to get over the hump. I think if they can put up 3 runs in a game, they probably won't lose. But you get into those moments with them. And I think part of it's just because they haven't seen the cut ball as much. I think their hitting lags behind a bit compared to how it does in NWLA. But I mean, they have Judas, Smithy, Reed's turned into a hitter. So it's like once they start to kind of get used to seeing those scuff ball pitches more, I think that's what it's going to take to get over the hump. It seems like they're winning a lot of games in like traditional a few years ago fashion where it's like 1-0 off a solo shot. They're not like grinding out wins like you see like the juggernauts do where they're like single, tag move the runner, double. Like, so I think if they can start to play more small ball and not rely as much on the long ball, they're gonna get over the hump one of these times.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take. And then Doug, I want to go back to, let me share my screen again quick here, to Group A, and that Game 2 matchup between Mo with Miracle and the New School Risers. That's a real interesting one to me. The Risers have had a breakout year this year, like I mentioned, winning Maw. Tell us a little bit about this Miracle roster, captained by Cam Smith.
Very solid throughout the whole lineup. A little pitching heavy with Josh Wheeler, Spencer Foss. Cam's probably going to be the third pitcher on that team. Got some experience with Roy Rank and Tony Cochran, who's played 3 years here in this tournament. I feel that first round game could possibly, if they can get past that first game, which is going to be tough. And, Doolin has come out to Mo Whiff and played with the Bombers, actually, with Cam. So they know each other very well. And if they get by that game, they can win that pool.
No, it's a good point. I think not to no slight to Hawks, abominable Wiffle man. I think if you look though at that top half of that pool, yeah, you say the winner of that game's got the pretty good shot of advancing. And then last for you, Tim. It's like I mentioned, Flamingos are our first, U17 team to, graduate. Which I think is exciting for us as organizers. I think that was, sort of the plan or the hope all along that we would see some of these MLW national U17 teams graduate. You've seen a lot of young teams over the year. What's kind of the toughest thing for a young team in their first national championship? What's the one thing they got to, a couple of things you think they got to overcome in order to compete with these guys that have been playing in this national championship or world championship for 20 years?
Well, I think if you look back at the champions and the teams that have made it the furthest in UWIF have been teams comprised of veterans, guys that have been playing a while. And I don't necessarily think that they have the most talent or, you know, than the top 20, 21-year-old, you know, but they just have the experience. And when you see the results of the past championship runs by these teams that make it deep, are teams that really have veteran leadership, veterans on their team. And I think that says something. The Flamingos are very, very talented, but they are going to have to go in, and every young team has to go in thinking, I'm fixing to kick their ass, right? And you can't go in going and being in awe of who you're playing against, because there are so many legends of the game that these kids, when they were 10 years old or 12 years old or 13 years old, when they started watching whiffs and when they started following YouTube videos, these guys are playing against them now, and they have to like block that out and say, I'm coming for you and you need to worry about me. I'm not worried about you. You need to worry about me. And I think it has to do with the attitude and calming your emotions, right? Things are not going to go well at different times of this tournament. And how do you weather that storm? The top teams go, I got this, right? And that's what they're going to have to do, because they're extremely talented. And the veterans, I'll tell you this, the veterans are concerned about them, right? So, but they're going into that mindset of, okay, here's what we got to do. Let's rattle them, right? If we get a big hit, or, they're going to, they're seeing guys that they've admired and for years, and they can get rattled. So they're going to have to keep it calm.
Yep, I think it's well said. It's having that veteran mindset without being a veteran team, and it's tough to do. You really just gain that through experience. All right, Tim, let's bring back up the wheel and continue on with the draw. We'll be going over to Group C now, Game 1. All right, so speaking of young teams, we have the process. It's team number 1 in the first game of Group C. They'll be taking on a veteran team in 603 Wiffle Club. That's a fun matchup. Then we have Bamboo, one of our 2 teams out of the BLW in Arizona. And they will be taking on the Crew out of St. Louis in game number 1. All right, heading over to Group D now. Team 1 in game 1 of Group D. We have Punishment out of Austin, Texas, a longtime participant in this event. Had their best finish last year, finished in the top 16. They will be taking on the Horsemen out of Maryland. This is team number 1 in game 2 of Group D. That's the MLW All-Stars, making their 5th tournament. The St. Louis team's just flying off the board now. We've got the Mojo, Mo with Mojo, as MLW All-Stars opponent in game 2 of Group D. All right, Tim, let's just keep going. We'll do the last 2 in Group B, and then we'll pause for – I think there's a lot to talk about here. Let's just get through this top half. Okay, now there's even more to talk about. We have the Long Balls. It's Team 1 of Ridley Park. It's Team 1 in Group E. And they will be taking on the North Stars out of Minnesota. Tim, we lost the wheel.
Oh, sorry, my fault.
Okay, you didn't spin, right? So we're on Team 1 of game 2?
Correct.
Okay, got it. All right, with Inc. is team number 1 in game 2 of Group E. Also a Sunday staple. They'll be taking NWL, a young team out of, well, technically out of the Rochester, New York area, but also players from Alaska, Indiana. I think I'm missing another state they've got a player from, Illinois. So kind of the world via Rochester there. If you want to unshare, Tim, I'll bring up the matchups here. I think a lot to talk about in this second group. All right, everyone, if we see down their screen, let's just go right to left to make this easier. We'll start with Group C. Process 603. That's, like we were just talking about this, Tim, about, young teams and veteran teams. The thing the process has is they've got Rob Longerer on their team. So they have a veterans to sort of calm them down. 603 is a complete, veteran team. This is kind of that archetypical, veteran versus young team matchup. I know you probably haven't got a chance to see the process much, but I guess just what do you think it does for a young team to have that veteran influence like the process does for Rob?
I think Rob being on this team is a huge advantage to them because he will provide them guidance and help try to calm them. I mean, Rob's been in the big games, right? So I really think that that's going to benefit them. The strategy of this navigating this tournament, playing the big names. Rob's not intimidated by anyone, maybe but Food Man. But yeah, but anyway, I really think it's going to help them. And with that talent that's on that team, and I have seen some footage of them playing, that's going to make a difference. I think without Rob, I think it's a totally different story for these guys.
Yep, I would agree with that. And Doug, so we got the Crew versus Bamboo. Bamboo again out of Arizona. Tell us a little bit about the Crew, another Mo Whiff team.
Yeah, well, that game right there is a bunch of people that haven't really played in this tournament. The Crew's, got some experience, but they're young. You got Chandler Melton, Caden Rice, Justin Hall, who went up to ECW for a weekend, was the pitcher of the week for that week. He can definitely dominate if I don't know about him going the first game, but they're really young. And, if I was to rank them, they were probably the fourth best team coming out of Missouri of the four teams.
What do you think their key is to have a good tournament? Is pitching hitting or the other way around?
They're going to have to get a lot of innings from Justin Hall and Caden Rice. They lack pitching depth, and Chandler Melton's going to have to hit a lot. That's what I believe.
So Chandler Melton, the key to the Crew's success for Doug. Dylan, going over to you in Group D. I kind of just look at this broadly, and I don't see on the top half here like a blow-away favorite. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to ask you for who your pick would be right now on the spot for coming out of the top half of Group D with those four teams.
I am going to go with my guys from MLW. I think this one's a total toss-up, like you said. I'm trying real quick to pull up the Mojo's roster. Is like you 14 down in there.
That's my family.
Yeah, let's just put Doug to work. Here you go.
That's fine. Yeah.
Tell us about the Mojo's roster.
Now the roster for Mojo is everybody's. You got Gus Skibby coming back with Sam Skibby, Jordan Smith, and Jackson Crosley. That's the four that are going for Mojo. Yeah. I believe if they can get past this first game. I seen Punishment play at the Mo Whiff Classic. I truly believe if they can get by the All-Stars, they can win that pool.
Yeah, I'll say, Paul, I agree with that. I think whoever wins game 2 is going to win that pool. I think Punishment take game 1. Punishment's a good team. We've played them as the long balls before. But MLW and Mojo is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see who MLW throws. I think that's going to be a huge factor. Mojo, I would say, definitely has the pitching upside as I look at this. I think all 4 of these guys can pitch. I'm pretty sure Jordan pitched against our long balls last year. And I know Sam, Gus, and Jackson can. Oh, I think hitting, I might lean towards MLW. because with NWLA and just seeing the skibbies hit, I also kind of feel like they're Circle City-ish form. If they can hit the big home run, they will. But the MLW guys are gritty. I can see them grow a few runs in this 4-3 count. So I think that's going to be definitely the match to watch in that one. I think whoever wins that will take Group D. But I'll go MLW All Stars for my official prediction.
All right, we'll lock you in on that. And then let's go over to Group E and stay with you, Dylan.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I don't have to give away any strategy here, any sort of overall thoughts, but here's where Ridley Park ended. North Stars are a team I think you're semi familiar with from NWA competition, the Steffies, Sibit. Just tell us a little bit about your first round opponent and just kind of how you look at them.
Yeah, this will be an interesting matchup. I love those dudes. The Steffes and Sibit missed HRL not being an NWA this year. NWLA, really good dude. We did play them last year in the comeback bracket after going 1-2. The Ridley Park team played them, and I think it was a good game. Zane pitched and ended up hitting a late home run to win it, but I think it's gonna be a good matchup. I mean, they're definitely a good team. I know they started 0-6 as a team, you highlighted, and now since then they've been 4-5 over the last couple of years. So they're for sure a gritty team. It's not going to be an easy game, but I'm looking forward to that one.
Yep, no, I am too. I think that's a fun matchup, and I think the Wiffle NWL matchup in that bracket is also a fun matchup with a lot of young guys against again one of our big veteran teams that are a staple on Sunday. All right, I don't want to hog all the questions here. Just before we move on, does anyone have anything else they want to say on any of these first round games? Let me put back up the screen here so you can see. And then if not, we'll just move on to our bottom half. All right, I think we're good to move on, Tim. Let me stop sharing and bring back up the wheel. So again, we're just before you spin it, Tim, we're on Group A now again, Game 3. So this is the bottom half of the Group A bracket. So right in the middle is the Cajuns. We play all over the place now. Texas, California, Mid-Atlantic, against Slaughterhouse. Also a staple of this tournament. Team 1 of Game 4 in Group A will be the Phenoms. We've said this a few times already. They're a constant presence on Sunday, like a few of these other teams we've seen so far. Ooh, and that's a huge first round matchup against the Las Vegas Whifflers. Phenoms, Las Vegas Whifflers closing out Group A. All right, Tim, want to go on to Group B? We have Way Too Beautiful out of New Jersey, another staple in this tournament. I'll be taking on Vendetta out of Massachusetts, a new team with a lot of WCT veterans on the team. Did really well in the ECW regular season, finishing first. Lit City is Team 1 in game number 4 of Group B, and they'll be taking on C4. All right, let's pause here, Tim. I think we've got enough to talk about. Share the outcomes here. All right, so I'm just going to throw this out to the group. Let's just talk about the Phenoms Las Vegas Whifflers matchup. This is our biggest matchup, I think, clearly so far in the first round. Let's start for you, Doug. Any thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's a rough first round game for both them teams. Wow, they're gonna have to use some pitching for that game. Yeah, that's rough. It could help them get off to a good start, or could put them behind. Wow, And then the Cajun Slaughterhouse game, that's a good game too. We've seen the Cajuns at the MoWiff Classic in the final, and they can hit too. That's a tough bottom half at Group A.
Yeah, would you agree, Dylan, that this is the toughest bottom half of a bracket or half of a bracket we've seen so far?
Yeah, for sure.
You're familiar with both, at least the players and the phenoms, and then
Yeah.
River Park lost to the phenoms last year in the final 16, and Las Vegas has been out here a bunch, and you've played them. What's your actually, let me ask a different question than what I was going to go with. So, Doug brought up playing a big game one, having used a lot of pitching. Do you think it makes a difference if you have this kind of big game one and then you win it? Do you think that momentum carries through, or would you rather see, all things being equal, would you rather see sort of a more manageable opponent first on your slate?
I think for these two teams specifically, I think you want to see a more manageable game. I don't think these two teams are teams that need that momentum boost. I think they're both veteran teams that know they're going to go in and get the job done, and they're going to turn up the gas when it gets to the elimination round. But like, I don't think the Phenoms need to beat Vegas to be like, all right, like, let's go, we're ready to go. Their tournament doesn't start till the final eight because that's where they make it every year. So same with Vegas. I think if they're a younger team, say like Flamingo's game, if they win a game like that big early against Skull Crushers, that's huge to propel them, and they might need that. But for this matchup, I think with two veteran teams like that, you would prefer something more manageable.
And Tim, you've seen both of these teams a million times. So give us your thoughts.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that game. I feel
Okay.
you're that in this group that let's go back to the Cajuns, right? And listen, I know I'm very familiar with all five of these guys. Three of them extremely familiar with because they've played in Texas number of years. So what people are sleeping on, not only was this a good team already, they added Chase Oliver, right? And when you add Chase Oliver based on what he did in Maw this year and the amount of innings that he threw, the arm strength, the quality of innings that he threw and added to this group along with Sylvie, right? And another veteran. This is one of those veteran teams we talk about, and I do think that is a wild card in this grouping that if they win their game one and play the winner of that big game that we're talking about, again, that's another huge game that all eyes are going to be on.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. We shouldn't just focus on that second game. And, so TJ Hannon doesn't yell at me, I'll put over Slaughterhouse here too. Like that's also a really good team that for years, I think we said, overperformed in the WCT, and now they just sort of perform and like we kind of expected from them. They went 3-0 last year in pool play, beat the usual suspects, beat 603, beat some, big veteran teams. They did it for a young guy. They've turned over their roster, but, they've got Matt Schmidt from the Dumps, who's a great pitcher. Brett's a great pitcher. They've got, really good pitching on that team. And good veteran hitting with Hannon and Sidoroff. So that graphic is that bottom half of that bracket, I think, is a
no. Everybody's bringing. I'm going to call. They're going to have to bring their A game in this bracket.
Yeah. All right, let me bring back the screen here. Let's quickly go over a few more things here. Moving over to Group B. I guess let's just start on the bottom half of the bracket with you, Doug. Tell us a little bit about your team.
Well, obviously we got some young guys on our team. We got some good pitching, and we have some up and coming hitters as well. I don't know if anybody's seen the MoWiff Classic, but Pat Ballman carried us, and he's going to have to carry us this year as well in UWIF. Tough first round match. So far, Group B is punishing. I mean, that's really top heavy there, and we're going to have our work cut out for us.
What would you say is, again, we've kind of talked about this with all the MoWiff teams. Would you say your pitching's ahead of your hitting, or what do you think the key is?
Yeah, our pitching is most definitely ahead of our hitting. We have four out of the five players are pitchers, and very good pitchers at that. The only one that isn't a pitcher is my son Quentin, but we are definitely pitching heavy. Let's just see how we can hit.
Dylan, any thoughts here on the bottom half of Group B?
Yeah, I think that Way Too Beautiful versus Vendetta game is going to be really, really good too. I think Way Too Beautiful adding Tom Gannon was for them. So now they have Tom Gannon, they have Skip, they have Bull, they have a bunch of options for that game. And then the Vendetta team has Jimmy Flynn. I think Russ Hamill's on that team as well, who was
Correct.
very good for the Dragons this year. Both teams veteran bats as well. So I think that one's going to be a big game. Lit City C4, that'll be a good matchup. Like Doug said, tough draw for Lit City, but I mean, it could go either way. And now my question, Paul, do the teams that start 0-2 flip and play somebody else from Group B that went 0-2?
No,
they switch?
They've no. So if you go 0-2, you just whoever goes 0-2 in the top is going to play the 0-2 in the bottom. Where the flip happens is if you start 1-0, then you play. If you start 1-0 but end up 1-1, then you play a team from the bottom half that started 0-1 and ended up 1-1.
Yeah, so that 0-2 game is going to be crazy as well. I mean, there's not a bad team in this bracket, so that's going to be a very interesting contenders bracket for Group B.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be. We saw one of those, I think, last year of to me, Whiskey Ducks. MLW is a good example of that. That was an 0-2 game last year where neither, one of those had to go home, and it was MLW. You're gonna get something like this in Group B.
Yeah,
where you're gonna have a good team going home at 0-3. All right, let's move back on, Tim. We'll do the last three here, and then we'll regroup for thoughts on that. So this is Group C, Game 3, Team 1. Said their name, and then they appear, the Whiskey Ducks. They'll be taking on the defending champions, the Juggernauts, in game number 1 of their tournament. Pandas, the other team out of BLW. Not to put labels on, but they would probably be the A team out of BLW. A lot of good players there, including one I'll ask Doug about a little bit later. They'll be playing the Stompers in their first game to close out Group C. So we've got, just pause here real quick, Tim. We have Whiskey Ducks, Juggernauts, Panda, Stompers in the bottom half of Group C. All right. All right, Roadkill, also out of BWBL in Pennsylvania. Got shellacked in their first game against Wiff Inc. and then ended up going 2-2 and had a nice solid tournament last year. They'll be playing SoCal Wiffle, winners of the MAW Steel City Showdown back in May. Team 1 in Game 4 of Group D are the Dragons. All right, old line's still here, right? Almost. Not quite. But the Dragons will be playing the Kalamazoo Keggers in their first game. So just one real quickly, Tim, before you move on. Roadkill SoCal and Dragons Keggers are our 2 games in the bottom half of Group D. All right, let's finish it out here. We've got a lot of good teams coming up here. Right on the line, Great Lakes Legion. Had a great year this year in their first full season. And they will be facing the aforementioned Old Line in game number 1 or game number 3 of Group E, but game number 1 for those 2 teams. And then we'll have another heavyweight matchup here. Let's see how this spins out. We've got the usual suspects as team number 1. That means Black Dog will be team number 2, which is a rematch of the first ever I'm sorry, first ever UWIF national championship. So definitely talk about that matchup. Let's go in order here, starting with Group C. I don't know who wants to speak on this. If anyone has any thoughts, that Panda Stompers matchup is very interesting to me. Tell us a little, Doug, about Livingston.
He's the real deal. He was by far the best player in MoWiff this year. He's definitely a difference maker on the mound, at the bat. He can do everything in the game. And don't sleep on Tommy Hernandez. He's one of the best up and coming hitters in the whole country. I seen him turn around Jordan Benet in the finals of the MoWiff tournament, and he can hit. They got a good squad to be one to watch out for.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you shouted out Tommy. So we got to see him once this year in MAW, and a really good hitter, really good guy too.
Yeah.
Dylan, maybe let's go to you a little bit about just to finish out this matchup. So the Stompers, you guys are intimately familiar with that team. You mentioned Tom Gannon earlier. The Dragons picking him up. I'm sorry, Way Too Beautiful picking him up. The Stompers let him go earlier this year. The Stompers picked up as their fifth.
Holden Palmer.
Holden Palmer. Have you seen him pitch?
Yeah, I mean, he's thrown in NWLA every year that we've been there, and I think he might have thrown against our Ridley team on the Blue Jays last year, unless I got that mixed up.
I think that was Aiden. I think that
okay. But yeah, I mean, I've seen him throw at NWLA in Circle City, and I know he pitched a big role, I think, a few years ago or 2 years ago in their NWLA tournament because they didn't have Smithy either. So I think Holden had to throw a bit more, but that's a big pickup. I still think losing Tom hurts, but Holden's a big pickup for them. And this team, I think, can go really any way they want with this first game pitching. They got 3 guys, and I know Bryce and Colin will throw if they need. So that'll be a good matchup. I Bro, very like Doug was, and I Angle's good too. That's a good pickup for them, but I'm not familiar with the other. I think that's gonna match up to.
Yeah, I think that's a coin flip game, and that should be a really interesting game one to watch. All right, Tim, let's get your thoughts on. So this is a different look Whiskey Ducks team. They're going to be without both Vasquez and Rendon. I think they're 2 sort of staples, but they have, Anderson and Collins both played. Or wait, the 2 guys played last year, and then they got James Stein, a great veteran. And they picked up Trevor Bauer out of Las Vegas. What do you think the key is for the Whiskey Ducks against the defending champs?
Well, they're going to miss Rendon because Rendon goes into every game thinking, I don't care who he plays. He goes into the game thinking, I'm going to beat you. Now, they're going to miss that presence of that. And then Stein's got to take that role of that, right? And a very crafty veteran, and got to help guide them through some of that. And so I just haven't seen, I've seen Cade throw amazing at times and then just get lost in the moment. And so they're going to need somebody on that team to step up and be an ace and act like an ace and get the results of an ace. If they're going to progress far in this tournament. And they will miss Jason. They'll miss Rendon a lot. So so nonetheless, they've got to have somebody step up. And they've got a rough first game, as rough as anybody playing the Juggernauts. And so they're just going to have to hang on. They have most of these tournaments. They've done that. They've hung on and been able to make it out of the bottom.
No, agree. They're you said the word earlier, crafty, I think is a good word, a resilient team, a veteran team. They'll have to, I think you nailed it on the head there. It's just, what can Stein do to replace that sort of captain, veteran, pump me up leadership that Rendon brings. The guy we know the very first year we did the WCT, no one knew who the Whiskey Ducks were, and they came in saying we're going to win this all, and they've kept that same attitude with and without having him there, be interesting to see how they kind of replace that intangible. I'll just throw this out to the group here. Bottom half of Group D. Just any thoughts on any of these matchups? We have Roadkill, SoCal Wiffle, and Dragons Keggers.
Well,
I think. Oh, you can go, Doug.
Well, the bottom half of Group D, SoCal's going to come out of that, in my humble opinion. I know the Dragons are good. SoCal did really well in Mall, and now they've added Connor Jaso to that team. Their pitching's good, their hitting's good. I think the bottom half of D is SoCal's to lose.
Dylan, would you agree with that, or you have a different thought?
No, I think. If I'm gambling on it, I'd say they're probably my favorite. I don't think Jaso is going to throw, though. If he does, he does. But I think this one's way more of a toss-up. I think that Keizu has a great roster, and I think the Dragons are one of the most underrated hitting teams in fast pitch wiffle ball. And I've always leaned on the side of hitting in wiffle ball, especially these last few years. It's just I think their lineup could get it done. I think the Dragons will beat Keizu in game one. I think it'll be close, and I do think SoCal beats Roadkill, but that game I think is going to be a total toss-up. Because Dougie's been a great pitcher too. That's probably who they'll throw. Or Nick. Dougie or Nick can both throw a bunch, and they both throw it good. So I think it'll depend on the matchups. I think if this is like an elimination round, I'd go with SoCal because they're probably throwing Jaso, but I don't think they'll throw him that early, especially if they start 2-0.
I agree with you that their Dragons hitting is probably better, but they do have Jackson Pearson on the mound, or they got Sawyer Bean on the mound. They're deep pitching wise.
They definitely are.
And they did do well versus Jugs last year, and let's see how well they do as the hunter.
Yep. Yeah, definitely not a slight to SoCal. I think they're a great team. That Dragons team, we've played them so many times over the years, and I think they're a great hitting team. I think they're very underrated.
Yeah, I agree with that on the Dragons, and like Bucci, I think is probably he's at least top 3 most underrated hitter in wiffle ball. And then you brought it up about Dougie pitching, Dylan. I think a big thing this year is Dougie threw 3 games or more in multiple tournaments, which you hadn't really been doing. And I think this Dragons team will need that, and he's pitched well. That's a big thing. I think SoCal, I just want to mention, we talked about earlier about just like they're a younger team and sort of getting over that hump where you have this expectation that you're going to win, or just sort of this thought that, hey, I can win every game. They have that now. I think a big thing with them last year was that Juggernauts game in the final 24 at the World Championship, and then winning, the Steel City Showdown in May and Mall. I think those guys expect to win. They know how to win. They've won before. I think that's big. I just want to give a shout out to Roadkill. I give a shout out to them last year. They're kind of one of my favorite teams. They got a lot of good young players on that team. Again, they got 10 run. I think it was well over 10 runs destroyed by Whiff Inc. in their first game last year. Bounced back, won their next 2, and it wasn't like it was a give me schedule, which is not easy for a young team. And ended up finishing 2-2. I think they beat the Wiffleholics in their final game, to make it to the final 24. So those guys are gamers. And then, Kalamazoo is just full of veteran, good wiffle ball players. So this is a cool bracket. All right, so we'll move on to Group E, and let's just get right to the big matchup there. We have Usual Suspects, Black Dog Country Club. Like I mentioned, that's a rematch of the 2020, the inaugural UWIF tournament. Again, I'll just open up to the field. Thoughts on this heavyweight matchup?
My thoughts on it is the same as I had with the Whifflers and the Phenoms. Like, oh my, that's tough. My Mojo team last year played Black Dog in the second game, and they have a lot of pitching. They have good hitters, and then they add Cooper Ruckle. I think they're one of the favorites to win. I know Usual Suspects got the pedigree of winning but I think Blackhawk does as well. I'd hate to be either one of them teams right now.
And Tim, we talked about veteran versus younger matchups. How do you think these are two veteran teams, two teams that are national champions or world champions? How do you approach a veteran versus veteran matchup? Do you approach it any differently, you think, or do you think these guys are just going to look at this as another game in their long history of games?
Well, I know Lanigan well enough that he's not going into it. I mean, he's thinking already, right? He's live on here, and his mind's already working. These guys have known each other for years, right? We're going back 20 years ago, right? So these players are very, very familiar with each other, and they're already in a chess match mind game right now as far as like, okay, what are we going to do? Right? Because the winner of this game, as in every first game, but when you have a game like this, the winner of this game, is sitting in a good, where they want, you're sitting in a good spot, but they want to win this one. And they feel like if I can get this game, but how does that change when you have a mega matchup like this, which we have several across the board? How does this change your dynamic with throwing, who you're going to throw? And they both have the pitching, and they all have aces. Where are you going to go with it, right? And I'll be interesting to see how they both navigate this.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of those games where even before it starts, you just kind of want to peek in to see who's pitching. Which you can do on the Grand Slam app we'll have here. You can see, once the game starts, who's pitching. But I think those kind of strategy decisions are going to be as interesting as the game itself, which will obviously be very interesting as well.
Now, I'll just say one thing on this, Paul. I might have made a mistake. I said Circle City might be the deepest pitching team. This Black Dog Country Club roster is insane. I think the four pitchers between Haverty, Tui, Ruckel, and DNAP, they're probably aces on over 30 or over 70% of the teams at this tournament. So that seems like a manager's nightmare. I don't know who you want to throw game one or who their pool play guy is, but I don't think, especially for this team, I think they have to have the mindset, even if they lose, they have pitchers that can go all tournament. So, I mean, I'll be very shocked if they don't make a deep run.
No, I agree. I think that's a great point for that. They've got so many arms that
crazy.
They can throw a good pitcher out there the first game. And then if you lose that first game, you can think about pitching Matty Griffith, the second game. And that's not a slight to Matty at all. He's a very good pitcher, but he's their fifth guy on their depth chart, and they can pitch in that second game potentially and then get a win. So they can go guns a-blazing in game one because they have that.
Yeah.
And then I want to give a shout out to, Great Lakes as well in this bracket, really good season. Dylan, you've seen them alive with Ma. What do you think is kind of the key for them in this tournament?
Well, I mean, they're definitely going to need to hit. This isn't a slight to them. Sullivan's one of my favorite up and coming players to watch, but I do think their bats were kind of carried by Kayvon this year and Ma. Ethan had some pretty big home runs, but I'm just looking at this roster, and I mean, they're going to need to step up and hit. That's the biggest thing I'm looking at. They're going to miss Kayvon for sure. I know Landon a bit. He pitched against us in LA. They looked maybe a little thin on pitching depth, but they're going to have their work cut out for them in that bottom or in that Group E for sure.
I that's a fair assessment. And so we have a few minutes here before we wrap up the main part of our show, and then we'll have Big Dan on for his thoughts on the brackets in general. But I want to give all three of you a chance, starting with Dylan. We'll just go left to right here, of just sort of any final thoughts now that all these brackets are out. And I know you've just seen them for the first time. So,
I mean, first, I think the Juggernauts are going to once again be 3-0. And that's scary for the rest of the tournament. I think they'll be 3-0 without having to sweat much, honestly, with just how much I respect that team. Group B will be the most fun to watch for sure. But yeah, those are my two biggest takeaways. I think the Jugs are going to start 3-0, so that's going to give them a good seed, and they're going to be tough to knock out again. And then I'm looking forward to how Group B turns out.
Tim Dean, what are your overall thoughts? Any that stick out to you?
Yeah, well, I think sometimes in the past we've looked at a group that went, oh man, we're going to have a team come out of that group that's really not super strong, and I don't see that. I mean, some people might look at Group A and think that, and I actually don't think that with what New School Risers did this year, right? And the with some of the and the phenoms in there. I mean, you look at each and every one of them. I mean, there is good teams in each one, and we're going to have really solid, strong 3-0 teams, and I even think strong 2-1 teams come out. So I don't think anybody's going to sneak into Sunday with an easy route.
Yeah, I think a big thing that I've kind of noticed over the last year or two, certainly last year, is the quality of the teams coming out of the survivor bracket have taken a big jump up. And I think we're going to see that again when you look at these brackets. Last year, we had SoCal come out, Risers come out of there, the Canes come out of there, and a good fourth team that I'm drawing a blank on at the moment. But to add to your point, Tim, I think we're also going to see really, really good teams that are having to go through that survivor bracket to come out of here. And it's a testament to how competitive this tournament is.
And we will always have surprises. So don't discount anyone, because every single year we have some upsets and some surprises come out. So who's that going to be this year? It'll be fun.
That's always the funnest thing to follow. Doug, final thoughts from you?
I think Group B, Group E, loaded, stacked. It's going to be tough to get out of there. Hopefully, the winners of them polls don't have to use up too much of their pitching, because there's a lot of hitting in them. In my opinion, Group D is the one that's not as strong. And with in my opinion, I think SoCal will come out of that. And the two big matchups, first game, the Phenoms and the Whifflers and the Black Dog and Suspects, is going to be fun to watch. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think that's going to have everyone glued to that game. All right. So thanks to everyone, our panel, Dylan, Tim, and Doug. Thanks for all your guys' thoughts. And now we're going to stick around. The Big Dan post-game show starts now. We're going to go over Dan's thoughts here before we let everyone go along with their Sunday. So, Dan, you've seen all of this. I'm just going to, kind of turn it over to you. What's kind of top of your mind right now after seeing all these brackets?
I'm gonna go over everything. So Group A, I think New School Risers takes care of Miracle and Wiffleholics. I think whoever wins Phenoms in Vegas will play the Risers in Group A.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yep. And then Flamingos don't even have Sean Holmberger. They dropped him for Aiden Richard.
What can you tell us about Aiden Richard?
He's from Bay City. He's a solid player over in Bay City in LOW. Solid little ball player.
He's also pulling double duty. I think he's playing in the U17 as well. Do you think that has an impact, trying to play in two tournaments at once?
I think it does a little bit. I think it helped Jeremy, but I don't know if it's going to help Aiden that much. I'm not 100%. I think it's 50-50 depending on the person.
And I think that's a good point. You get more at bats, so like in some ways it's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? You see more pitchers, you have the chance to kind of get rolling, kind of figure things out if you kind of start off slow. So take us to the bottom half of that bracket, Group B.
So Vendetta's one of my sleeper teams this year. Jeff Ropes, Wes Hamill, Aaron Briggio, Scott Thomas, Jimmy Flynn. Jeff's a really good ace. Wes is good too. Thomas is a really good leadoff hitter. That's a good team. Wet City C4, I love that matchup. You're probably going to see Caleb McCollum for Wet City, and you're probably going to see Packer for C4.
Now, Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I think that's a really good point you brought up. Is that's been C4's game plan, right? At the WCT is try to pitch Packer early and get a game or two out of them. And if you're correct, Dan, and Lit City throws their ace out of the gate, you may have a little bit of a pitching mismatch there, and it's just a question of whether Lit City can take advantage of that with their bats.
Yeah. Another matchup I really like in this group is that Meats and Soda City. If both teams win, I think that could be a really good matchup.
Yeah, I think those are two contenders and just two teams that know each other very well. That should be a fun one if they can get by their first game.
Yeah, Phenoms Whifflers. I'm interested to see if they throw Robles and Bonet again, or are they going to throw like Trappist and Van, or are they going to throw like Connor and Randy? Like, I'm interested.
Yep, I think that's definitely a matchup. There's a lot of these matchups where you can look at where just going into it, it's just who are they going to pitch? We talked about that, right, with the usual suspects, Black Dog, where the game's going to be interesting before it even starts, and just seeing who these guys choose to throw.
603.
Yep.
I will. Young Force Old. You see this every single year. Young Force Old. I got process beating for 603 though.
Why? What's your thinking behind that?
Because I really like the young talent they have, like Ferris, Denny, Shane, Benji. They're all really, really good young players.
Yep. I certainly think they have a chance there. It's a toss.
Another one I really like is Bamboo and McCrew. These are two young squads that have won in other leagues, like BOW Fall and MOF, which are two semi-professional leagues. Like, outside of Mall, like I think those are the two most popular fast pitch leagues, and they're succeeding in both. So, Juggernauts are probably going to go 3-0 again.
What do you think about that Panda Stompers game? Any thoughts there?
I like that game. I think you're not going to see Brody and Bryce. I think it's going to be Stengel against Fink. I believe that's the pitch. I think that's who they should throw. Or Palmer. Stengel was Palmer. I think adding Palmer's huge for pool play.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think about way too below. I have guys that Tom Gannon. They added Tom Gannon last minute.
Yep, that's a huge addition, and I think Dylan shouted that out too. I think that's one of the sort of the more interesting additions coming into this tournament. So let's head over to Group D.
Going to the top of D, I think whoever wins MLW and Mojo will play SoCal in Game 3. I think whoever wins that matchup is going to play SoCal. MLW does not have Dallas anymore. They've landed instead now.
Yeah.
What
do you think about that trade?
I think the reason why they did that is because Dallas couldn't make it, and they wanted Landon for a while to play on that MLW team.
Do you think Landon replaces Dallas's pitching? They used Dallas as kind of an ace last year.
I think Landon can throw 100. He has a lot of potential, in my mind. Yep, and enough Mojo just rolling a 4. Like, I think they should roll a 5, but it is what it is. Punishment and Connor were laughing. I think that's a good move. And then Horseman.
Yep. That's definitely a wide open top half there. So take us through the bottom half of Group D.
So I think SoCal's going to win this bracket, even if we throw Steven and Sawyer the whole time, because they got Woka, who's an easy win for them. Dragons, I could still have them a win, even though Dougie and Nick are both really, really good pool play arms. Dragons just don't have that elimination arm.
Right.
KZoo, I really like that roster. I really like Owen. I really like Abanowski's from MLW. And then Group B, Ridley Park with Fink. I think those are really good teams. Ridley Park's only going with one team because Boaz can't make it. With Fink and McCarthy, I think, is huge for the hitting. I love the hitting on with Fink. Love it.
Yeah, no, there's not a the only question for Whiff Inc. is going to be who they, they're probably going to want to bat for is who they sit in some games. But yeah, they're loaded offensively. What about NWL? Interesting young roster.
NWL's got one of the youngest rosters ever. Tornwolf, Jack Wolf, Hunter Sabinski, Nico Ruiz, Porter Palmer. 4 of those guys are under 20 years old.
Yeah.
And the was like 25.
He's the old man, 25.
And then one thing I want to see, Group B, is that for whenever that usual suspects Black Dog game, we'll probably have to face a tough Legion team. Suspects are really good. They added Toast to replace Sylvie. Legion added Brandon Eberhard to replace Landon. And I really like Eberhard. I think he's got a really solid arm. He can throw 95.
Yeah. No, he's
Think about
definitely got it.
The thing about Black Dog that I really like is that they have the best pitcher staff in the country. Coop, Haverty, Tui, and Dina. I don't know which arm of that team, who will they throw in game one? Who will they choose to throw in game one?
And I think that's the most interesting thing about that game. Suspects have depth too, but they don't have the pitching depth that Black Dog has. So it's kind of two different strategy decisions, right? Like for Usual Suspects, it's like, okay, do we, usually they've gone with Flanagan game one. Do they go off of that to try to pitch someone harder? I think for Black Dog, there's not a bad answer, right? They can pitch any of those guys if it's a good answer.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So before we wrap up here, Dan, I'm going to put you on the spot. Give me your
pool winners.
Give me your pool winners, and then I want your championship matchup. Let's start with the pool winners. Let's just go A through E.
Group A, I'm gonna go whoever wins that Phenoms Vegas game. I'm gonna go Vegas, Fo.
Okay, Vegas. So Vegas coming out of Group A. Group B, who do you got?
C4. I think they have a defending final champs. They're gonna go 3-0. I bet you they get for 1 seed. They're just so good, C4.
Yep, I think that's a good pick. Always a good pick picking C4. Group C, who do you got? So you got Vegas, C4. You got a couple of veteran teams. So
Juggernauts, easiest one.
Okay. We'll just keep moving on then. So now 3 veteran teams. Who you got in Group D?
SoCal. I think getting Jackson and Connor is huge.
So we got SoCal now, sort of breaking up the
yes,
the old veteran team things. We got Vegas. I'm sorry, you said Vegas, right? Vegas, C4, Juggernauts, and SoCal. And who do you got in Group E?
Either Black Dog or With Ink. I'm torn on this one. I'm gonna go Black Dog. I just like their pitching a little more than With Ink's pitching.
Yep, I think that's fair.
Some best, but both pitchers not the best.
Agreed on that. So now, really going to put you on the spot here, Dan. I know you haven't had a chance to really sort of go through all the brackets, but give me a championship game and give me a winner.
Juggernauts in Vegas is my championship. Juggernauts are going to go back to back again.
Okay, that's
Juggernaut. I'm picking Juggernauts until they don't do anymore.
It's a smart move. If you're a betting fan out there, I think that's the smart money. And if Juggernauts did that, they become the first team to win 4 championships. We have 3 teams in the field that have that chance to do that. C4 and Usual Suspects being the other ones. But yeah, I agree with you. Until the Juggernauts don't win, why would you pick against them?
What's your championship prediction?
As an organizer of the tournament, I want to stay away from making any of those kind of predictions. I'm going to Kirk Herbstreit myself and just take the easy way out to not make a prediction on that. But I definitely do not disagree with yours. I think those are smart.
I think Bonet versus McCallaf is going to be very interesting in that championship.
That would be a must-watch game for sure if that happens.
A couple of teams I was intrigued by before I picked that matchup. Circus City, that was one. Who else is one? SoCal was another option I thought of. Phenoms, Black Dog. And those are the 7 I see as like true championship contenders.
Yep, no, that's a solid list for sure. All right, any final thoughts, Stan, before we get out of here?
No.
Nope. You're good. Okay. We really appreciate you joining us, Dan. Great insight. No one follows the game, more intently than you. So make sure you're following Dan on Instagram if you want to give a plug to your Instagram.
Big Dan Whiff's content. Follow me on there. I'm starting up Big Dan shows again. Big Dan Whiff's content. Big Dan MOW content. Follow me. Subscribe to me.
Yeah, make sure you're following him. If you're not going to be in the loop of what's going on in wiffleball. So thanks, Dan. Thanks for everyone. Thanks for all of our other panelists. Thanks for everyone that joined us on the stream. And we look forward to seeing everyone on Friday.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.